Good evening and welcome to another episode of Business Today, a program on ChannelEye Rupavahini where we discuss business matters related not only locally but also globally, and we bring in personalities who are really in the limelight and the shadows of the business world today. So today on our business personality, let's go and check out a person who has many portfolios to his name.
Professor PMC Thilakerathne rendered his services in the capacity of technical consultant to the Institute of Chartered Accounts of Sri Lanka. He was the main board director and chairman of the audit committee of the Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka. He is a founder director of the Financial Service Academy of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. He held a position of college director, Australian College of Business and Technology, which is one of the strategic business units of Navitas Australia. Professor Thilakerathne is a former head, Department of Accountancy, and served as the director to the Staff Development Centre and the director, Centre for Distance and Continuing Education, University of California. He is currently functioning as the Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka, and he is permanently attached to the Department of Accountancy, Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies as a professor in Accountancy, University of California. He is the chair of International Conference on Business and Information 2021, organized by the Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies.
Well, yes, definitely a person with many portfolios and many business ideas within himself. So a very good evening to you, the current Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka, Professor Thilakerathne. And thank you very much for joining Business Today.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Well, talking about the education sector in Sri Lanka, obviously we know that from the secondary education that a person has, obviously moving on to the higher education. Just tell us, where does the Sri Lankan higher education stand currently?
Sri Lankan higher education, of course, stand which is equivalent to the other world renowned countries, where so because that we adopt and we continue with British model. So therefore that everywhere in the world Sri Lankan graduates and the higher education is well recognized and accredited. So therefore the not only that, with that current developments in the world in the higher education, the all the that national universities and other non-state higher education institutions as well operating under the Sri Lanka qualification framework, where it that assures the quality and relevance of higher education. And when it comes to the recognition, as I mentioned earlier, recognized everywhere in the world for the employment opportunities as well as pursuing lifelong learning.
So when you take the private sector and the government sector of higher education, do you see a difference between these two?
Well, that there is a difference. In the first instance, the difference is we have conventional government universities, which is that under the purview of University Grant Commission, and that non-state higher educational institutions, again given the approval by the Ministry of Education. So therefore we are operating here in this country 16 national universities today, as well as there are about the accredited 22 non-state higher educational institutions providing higher educational opportunities for the Sri Lankans.
So when you take the higher education of Sri Lanka, and if you take the global market where the higher education in other countries, do you think that Sri Lanka is in par with the higher education systems around the world?
Well, our graduates are well that equipped with that knowledge, skills, attitudes. When it comes to the higher education, so what that the world trend is not only that possessing the certificate, it is that beyond that the set of skills. Therefore, the heavily Sri Lankan higher education invested, they are that whatever the degree program that they are pursuing, so that skill development component as well. So therefore, whether that graduate is that going for the right employment or that underemployment, always this that well accepted everywhere in the world. Therefore, that any that employment opportunity, the Sri Lankan graduate can compete with that Western graduate, or that whoever that graduate from the that renowned university passing out from the that Australia or the New Zealand or the UK university. That is the trend today.
So, Professor, just tell me, obviously we see a lot of Sri Lankan youth who finish their secondary education in our country and then try to pursue their higher education overseas, or they do go through a certain period of their higher education in Sri Lanka and then pursue to do their final degree or final year in another country. Why does this all happen? What is the mentality behind all this?
Well, that education is every family, all the all parents that wanted to get their children to be educated. So, education is the again the education win the world. So, therefore, well, that there is a trend, it is like this. So, whatever the that the degree program or the degree once the that the student completed. So, well, that whether that they are looking for their that career advancement. When it comes to the career advancement, now different models are available in the world now. There are that we call it the honors degrees in Sri Lanka, which is having that early special degree programs where that 4 years duration. Now that we are talking in terms of credit value. Credits is that weight given to the that academic module. So, where that one credit is equal to the what is called 50 notional hours. So, therefore, now credit transfers are available. So, in the world today. So, let us say for example, if a student completes here in Sri Lanka the 2 years of his studies in honors degree, the rest of the 2 years that can be completed elsewhere in the world. So, this is the trend, and that most of the that the young students or the young generation is looking forward to have different kinds of experience and the academic atmosphere and world of opportunities. This is why this trend is happening today.
So, if you take on somebody who has graduated in a university in Sri Lanka to a person who has graduated to a university overseas, what would be the job opportunities? Would it be different from person to person? Would it be different opportunities that or different avenues that would open up for that person?
Well, in case of Sri Lankan graduates, as I stated in the outset, very competitive. But when it comes to the that our education, mainly the tertiary education in our own languages, Sinhala, Tamil and English. But in overseas, especially when we take an example Australia, New Zealand, UK, all in English language of instruction. But most of our universities now change the language of instruction for teaching and learning to the English medium. But it does not say that once the graduate is that passing out with a degree, so then that the communication required communication skills expected by the employer is not that par with the whatever the graduate who is passing out, whoever the graduate is passing out from the that Australian university. So, therefore, sometimes so the overseas the graduates will take that advantage over our students, but given the now the curriculum has changed in our country, because what I wanted to say honors degree program 4 years, the final year in the 4th year. So, every and each undergraduate now required to undergo an internship training. So, therefore, in the internship training it means that they are in the work based training. So, they are in an organization where that working with other fellow that employees. So, then they speak good English, they know that then that accustoms to the what is known as the office environment, and the cultural and the behavioral aspects are changing. These are that again finally accumulate in this skill set of a graduate. So, therefore, that it is again what can I summarize over here, So, there is no difference I see if the given the proper training to employ a person with minimum supervision to complete the whatever the assigned task.
And another thing is what we have realized is that if you go overseas, you really graduate or you qualify within a very lesser age limit, and in Sri Lanka you exceed about another 4 years from there. Why is the reason behind this?
Well, that this is that so in Sri Lanka, so we have 13 years compulsory education. So, once the that students sit for the Sri Lankan A level to enter the university, now there is a long delay. So, it on an average 1.5 years, it is that accounted to different reasons. Now, most recent the reason is this pandemic situation. Of course, that due to so University Grant Commission and the government is making every possible efforts to provide the maximum seats to our students. So, when then they are coming to the university, there is that the requirement of providing hostel facilities for them. So, therefore, that cannot that very quickly commence the academic activity during the pandemic situation. Okay. Prior to the pandemic, pre-pandemic situation, what had happened, of course, that Sri Lankan that universities are so that liberalized. So, therefore, that they have freedom. So, students are engaged in that lot of that activities inside the university, and that day by day. So, then academic activities are just that postponing. As a result of that, the average student's age while they are passing out completing his 25th year. So, therefore, elsewhere in the world, so it is not when the student is completed 21 years, they are graduating. So, therefore, that they are going for the master's degree within another 2 years and the PhD within another 3 years. There are that. So, when the student is completing 25th year, of course, that he has that postgraduate degree as well, but the Sri Lankan scenario is different. Not only that, once that sit for the examination again, so it takes time to mark the answer scripts, releasing results and processing that all university admissions takes time. So, if this one to be expedited, definitely this that age that can be the reduced further to that have our that university entrance in the younger age to Sri Lankan university sector.
So, this would also have a direct or indirect outcome or impact on how the business basically the business in Sri Lanka would move because of this delay.
Yes, of course. Now, when it comes to the employment opportunities, now there are employment opportunities graduates are required, and there are some employment opportunities where that A level that pass out students, and some that professions are there, some employment opportunities are there, unskills of course after the O level school leavers. So, therefore, there is a that impact for the business, because always the youngsters are now we used to call today that the children are the digital babies. So, they are that so techno savvy, they are that knowing that all the that computing and information technology methods. So, therefore, there is direct impact, that is called that finally the human, there is a effect of that delay in the passing out the graduates to the human capital development of a country.
So, Professor, moving on, since you brought up the topic tech savvy and computer lit and all that, obviously with the ongoing pandemic, things have all started to really change. If we're talking about the first new normal, the second new normal, how do you overcome things? We talk about virtual platforms and various things. So, how do you see Sri Lanka with the new normal, especially around the business environment?
In the business environment, now Kosala, if you take the that service industry is rapidly expanding. Service, when I say service industry, telecommunication, hospital services, and the other service sector is rapidly expanding, because say for example banking. So, banking sector almost digitized, digital world that we are living with. So, therefore, now due to this pandemic situation, most of the that business activities disrupted. So, but due to this digitization process, there are different stages or the different degrees of digitization is happening in various business sectors, but there is that emerging trend of the adopting each and every industry sector digital services. So, therefore, that I see the rapid transformation into the use of and introduction of the digital services and the use of digital services general public.
Well, I think that is something very difficult, especially with a society that lives on a lot of myths and a lot of misbeliefs, to really educate them on how you can get digitalized. What is your take on this?
Well, that it is that fear in case of digitization. When you take the banking, so there are ATM machines and internet banking, mobile banking, and there are that various buzzwords are there. But when it comes to the, let us say, take simple example. So, paying the utility bills of the household. Now, earlier that the household, the owner of the that house used to go to the post office or to the bank, and that so be in the queue to that pay the bills. Now, no need, just in front of the computer. So, using the internet banking, and without a cost, only the internet cost is there. So, that you are paying the the bills. So, therefore, now it is life become very much easier with this that transformation, but transformation should be accepted. This is known as technology acceptance, but technology acceptance in the that let us say aging people is less, but as I said, young children and that middle level that so middle age the population in our country now gradually transform into apply this digital the transformation very rapidly.
Coming to a very important topic, obviously you are very much involved with the upcoming 12th International Conference on Business and Information, the ICBI. Tell us a little bit about how it all happens, how the initiative is, and what exactly does this conference really look forward to bringing into the society?
Well, that International Conference on Business and Information, of course, is that brainchild of the Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies. This that conference, so in this year in 2021, 11th November, so scheduled to be held on virtual platform, and this is the 12th international conference. So, we have conducted very successfully in every year 11th conferences, and this conference, the objective of this conference to bring to the common platform the academia and the practitioners to discuss the contemporary development in the modern business world in various disciplines in management, whether it is accounting and finance, human resource management, marketing, and the other techno entrepreneurship, all in one place. There is that common platform that we have created in the University of California under the Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies to happen this one on 11th of November 2021.
Well, you talked about 12th consecutive year. Obviously, the entire world and Sri Lanka was going through a global pandemic during. So, how did you manage to continuously take this forward, especially in a year 2020 where things were not really on the move?
Well, that with the pandemic, so this pandemic hit our country April in 2020, and of course, that we have conducted the previous year international conference on virtual platform, online platform. So, therefore, that we have built up the image of conducting on fully virtual platform international conference. So, having accumulated the wealth of experience by doing that IT or the ICT innovations, we adopted this time also to the happen this international conference on business and information fully virtual platform. So, therefore, there is a wide publicity all over the world. So, therefore, that lot of researchers and that doctoral students now rallied around and again submitted their research output to our conference.
How does one person get involved with this conference? How do you pick and choose your participants for this?
Well, that so we have of course designed very that attractive website, this website, we have that place in our that main web page of the University of Kelaniya. And again that we have used social media. So, through the social media it is that widespread that of course it reached to the widespread audience. So, therefore, that as a result of that in the virtual platform we have conference management system, where in the conference management system it is that very easily the researcher can submit the research papers to the for the evaluation. So, therefore, that conference management system, of course that there are reviewers, again that some supervisors are there, they are assessing and they are sending to the outside, even through the that everything virtually. So, thereafter once the paper they received to the conference management system according to the that different tracks of the conference, categorize and sending for review. Once the reviewer completes the review process, again the feedback is given to the researcher himself or herself, and that again is revising the paper according to the comments given by the reviewer. So, then again submitting the revised research paper to the conference management system. So, there is no with minimum human intervention it is happening today.
So, Professor, tell us, like, say, what type of researchers do come into this category? Can anyone submit any research that he has done in in various business segments?
Well, that as I said earlier, the management discipline is so vast now. So, it covers wide spectrum: accounting, finance, human resource management, marketing, and again social distancing, and again entrepreneurship, all that, even education, and again online education, or the that open and distance learning, all that topics under the management will be covered in this that international conference.
So, once the research is done and it's submitted towards the conference, what would be the opportunity if you are being handpicked to be a part of this conference? What is the opportunities that would open up for these researchers?
Well, that this is not the mere conference, just it is not an event of reading research papers in front of the general audience. We have added this year lot of value added activities. Say for example, first thing is that 3 minutes competition, where that University of Queensland in Australia propagated this concept. Now, you are very much aware. So, in a doctoral student or the PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, the student required to complete the research thesis. It is that again consists of that 30 to 40,000 words, and so that longitudinal study which takes that 4 years minimum. So, therefore, this that whole research output, the researcher wanted to that present to the general that audience within 3 minutes. So, then we have embedded 3 minutes competition to the general audience. So, therefore, that is an opportunity given to that world researchers. Not only that, doctoral colloquium that we have embedded into this conference. Doctoral colloquium, what is it meant for? It meant for the MPhil students and again the doctoral students to that disseminate their research findings to the again to the peer group or the reviewers, because they are in the process of completing their research. Of course, getting the feedback is very much important to again revise and enrich their that methodological issues and the models they have adopted, and again that think about the future research directions as well.
I think we have come to a very interesting topic about the 12th International Conference on Business and Information, how you can be a part of this with your researchers, and what you can gain by doing these researches, and what you can gain by being a part of this conference. So, thank you very much Professor Thilakerathne for joining us and giving us all this information on our program Business Today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, with that we come to the conclusion of another episode of Business Today. We will be back with you Same time next week with Business Today.